Hello, this is French. Today, I get the privilege to be outside and I have an opportunity to share with you um, a topic that is near and dear to my heart, a social crisis tie into a devastating economic consequence. Because, anyway, I'm going to get right into it because I don't want to waste any time. I'm outside getting some fresh air, picking up my book that I just recently acquired. It's called Connected. Connected, how your friends affect everything you feel, think, and do. I'm also in the process of reading this book, um, Tribes by Seth Godin, and another book on called Smart Swan. Smart Swan is a book that covers the idea of how honeybees, I mean, colonies, how schools, colonies, and honeybees interact with each other as a social network um, to get done a lot of things. The book went on to basically explain the idea of how individual bees in a colony works independently without necessarily uh, directions, self-directed, work in a very decentralized manner to do the impossible, and yet to have foragers, going out to seek out opportunities either to prevent uh, um, danger and at the same time seek for food, seek for any other whatever they need to do to grow. Basically, the idea is that each bee operates independently from each other without necessarily giving directions from the queen. But at the same time, they have a mechanism where they work together as a social connection to develop a certain pattern to speed their mobility, to speed food acquisition, and to also uh, reduce inefficient time, wasted time. So, if for instance several bees are going out and looking for food, whichever bee developed the quickest and fastest way to get to the food, and they, also developed the fastest route that saves time. But before you know it, the rest of the colony will follow into the one bee that finds the quickest way to do whatever they're trying to do, whether it's food acquisition, whether it's mobility, location, if a place for them. So, anyways, you get the idea. We work like school flocks and colonies, like honeybees and locusts, and we are part of a social network. And this book basically taking it one step further. Because we are a social being, we are socially connected. Um, we are identically, whether we know it or not, influenced by our friends for the best or for the worst. Anyways, so since my interest is about money, the economic cost of doing things the wrong way for an individual has a direct correlation to a community as well. And since social isolation and social um, connectivity is different, and loneliness is the epidemic that has been there for since the beginning of time. Okay, first of all, in the Bible, God says it is not good for men to be alone, and so God so created Eve to give Adam companionship. And in Hebrews 10 24 25, and it goes on to say, let us continue to encourage one another daily and not forsaking the assembly of together as some were in the habit of doing, and let us encourage one another daily, because the day of disaster, the ultimate day of the Lord is coming. So, in a sense, that day, say, I expand on the idea, for instance. Okay, so you're socially isolated, you're physically isolated, and you're a loner because you have no social network. You're not part of a honeybee school locus, and you're not necessarily connected to an organism, a movement, whether it's a church, a PTA, non-profit organization, local food bank. You're socially disconnected, and when you're having a good day, nobody knows about it. And because nobody knows about it, an isolated person, even if you look at the jungle, for instance, if you watch any of Discovery Channel, you know, in Africa or wherever we have animals, the loner is basically uh, lunch for the pack of wolves, for the pack of lions, and you get the idea. So it's never easy for a pack of lions to attack a pack of giraffe as a group, because it's pointless. However, the lions might be very patient to wait and analyze and study the behavior of the group to identify one single loner and then go for the kill at the right time in the day of adversity, when things are, when the pack of lions, a pack of giraffe, or a pack of whatever you want to call it, the corresponding animal group is in the process of mobility. A hungry lion or pack of lion, male or female, would sit quietly to identify the group's behavior, and basically since their lions quench for food their thirst to feed their young ones, they will wait as long as it takes to study the group's behavior and basically go for the kill. The connected, those who are socially connected, it's never the animals in the middle of the pack that would be in effect. It's the animal in the surrounding edges, more likely on the end of the pack or on the side, slightly awkward, slightly not connected, becomes lunch for the pack of adversaries. So in life, it's the same thing. The socially isolated, the loner is the one whose loneliness and social isolation, not connected to a tribe, becomes the asset for the economically powerful companies, landlords, bill collectors, scammers. The socially isolated, the lonely individual with no friends, who are not part of a worship group, who are not part of a social connection, a tribe, they are the one who becomes the target for scammers, whether it's for dating scammers, dating websites, opportunity junkies, commission junkies, because social isolation makes you a target for all kinds of scams, because of your lack of connectivity, your lack of participation in a tribe, make you a vulnerable individual and therefore susceptible to all kind of physical, psychological, emotional, social danger. Because there is a correlation of economic instability in the life of a loner, you cannot avoid the economic cost of loneliness, the economic cost of social isolation. And I'm part of the solution, all right? Well, I'm part of the Boogie G Club, a group of, you could say, we are socially well connected via multiple chat groups, via WhatsApp or Telegram. We participate in events together. to basically uh, enhances the idea is that we are part of an economically empowering group of people who we are well connected into a cash flow generating machine through Miracle Cash, and we are surrounded by a group of economically successful minded individuals who are also not so uptight and recluse to understand the importance of reaching out and help people uh, avoid the pitfall of the economic cost. And due to inflation, the rising cost of inflation, I just saw a 60-minute Australian video, and the title basically says, "Government cannot stop the rising cost of economic inequality." Well, I'm adding to that. Basically, it says, government cannot stop the economic cost of the rising inflation. In other words, as inflation, the price of the goods and services that we consume gets higher as you get older, depending on what you do for a living, you probably or not have an increase in cash flow. And since the socially isolated, the physically disadvantaged individual who are not able to continue to produce cash flow is likely to be the person who is most affected by uh, the increasing cost of inflation, the rising cost of living. And if you do not own your own home, I met actually a BU professor who told me about the rising cost of rent and even the energy. I believe, I forget exactly what she said, um, that she has to pay for on everything, and since everything is going up in cost, and most likely I get a feeling that she probably live alone, that means uh, she's paying a singles tax, meaning that she's not sharing the cost, the expenses with anyone else. She's paying a singles tax, and yet she has a supposedly good job. That good job as a professor probably gives her a lot of um, personal fulfillment, but at the same time, at what cost? At what economic cost? Eventually, she can only teach for so long. Eventually, she's gonna get old, and eventually, if she's not connected, once she starts teaching, she's gonna have to find a ways to develop herself, develop connection. Anyways, you get the idea. So, singles or older, widowed, bereaved widows, separated widows are target of scammers because they lack social connectivity. They're likely to be the one who fall for scams. Where, if you're socially isolated, you're basically a danger to yourself. And adults who are older in age, living apart or living far away from their loved ones. Here's the thing: because of familiarity, an older adult, are likely to stay in their present home because of they're familiar with the present environment. They may not even have friends. They may even have kids who wants to be able to bring them home. But the kids cannot force their parents to move home with them. And so they are, in a sense, economically disadvantaged because they are paying for a single house, a single household cost of everything, from rent or mortgage or taxes or utilities, and the kids who may have space but cannot force their parents to move in with them, and therefore the kids have to pay the economic cost of uh, visiting as soon, of course, they're in the same states, or pay for individuals to basically go do for their parents basic necessities. If you if you're in the south where it's hot, uh, that means on a yearly basis, you know, providing air condition. If there's a problem in the house, pay someone, pay services to do something for their parents. Um, I don't have to. I don't have to. Uh, this is a topic that I would be interested to talk about, even if there was no economic advantage to me, because I'm interested in the economics of everyday life in general. But here's the thing: a gentleman, a Jewish gentleman, living by himself in Massachusetts, who has several kids. Each of the three kids are out in different states. Two of them married, okay, and one of them look for certain services to basically help a father who is a lawyer with eye problem, to take care of upgrading the computer system. The computer system uh, needed to have software upgrade. The father couldn't do it by himself, and the kids were not around. So one of the more sensitive of the three kids, all right, contact me, because I made myself available for those services as a way to generate cash flow so I can leverage in other opportunities to upgrade the computer for the gentleman. Here's the kicker: the gentleman lives alone, intellectually very sharp, but cannot do certain things. If one of the kids bring the parent home and stay with them, there would not be a need to pay a cost in a single living facility, and the parent, the gentleman, would not have to be alone, not having the love, the social connection with their kids. Now, depending on the relationships that the parent has built with their kids, the kids or the child who is likely to be more attentive to the parent's need is the child who are more likely to be in tune on a day-to-day basis to take care of a single father living in a home, elderly living facility, looking for a person locally to take care of a very simple need. Such a simple thing could have been taken care of by a friend, as opposed to paying an individual a certain amount of income per hour to take care of basic needs. And such needs include the removal of AC units, the installation of certain art, the change of a TV from one room to another, or a simple rearrangement of the living spaces to make the parent living alone feel more comfortable. Due to familiarity, the parent may decide to stay home because even though they may or may not have friends, they stay where they are because that's what they know. An economic cost that could be alleviated if the older adults were not too stubborn to refuse relocation so they could be near their kids, or if their kids were not so self-centered and understand that their parents who spent time loving them and care for them and provided education for them, and now they're on their own, married or not, needs to realign their life to make up for the parents' need. Perhaps I'm not talking to you. Perhaps I'm talking to somebody you know. And I'm pretty sure many of you can relate to that. That's one aspect of loneliness. I've already in one video mentioned how a successful individual who delay gratification make themselves very successful, and the cost of success is isolation later, because the people who did not have the drive, the intrinsic motivation to make themselves successful, who live below their capacity, did not see the need to delay gratification later. Have fun today, forget about the cost later on. And so the cost of success is the disconnection, the social disconnection between you and your friends, so that way later you could reap the rewards of delayed gratification at the cost of paying for having limited friends and having disconnectivity between the people you grew up with, people you went to high school with, and later you have someone who is a professor of XYZ university who happens to go shopping at the local supermarket to meet a classmate, whether they keep close contact together. One achieved great success as a professor, and the other is, bagging groceries at the local XYZ shop. I'm not talking to you. Perhaps I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to anybody you might know, because you're not dealing with this issue. Here's the thing: successful or not, we are all at one point. No one is immune to social isolation. You could be in a office full of people due to the fact that you may not share the same activity. You may not have the same, you may not like the same music, you may not like the same sport, you may not have the same political views. That in itself is, those things may be a recipe for social indifference, So people tend to gravitate to people who share the same view with them, political views, people who like the same or have the same hobbies with each other, and you are indirectly connected and therefore socially influenced by your friend and your friend's friends. In the case that if you have no friends, you're not part of a tribe, and because of that, you suffer the lack of connectivity. Therefore, you are 100%, 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days in a year, physically disabled or not, socially isolated, and definitely lonely. Therefore, loneliness is like water. Water takes whatever substance or whatever shapes you find it. You put water in a bowl, water takes that shape. Like the air, you cannot see the air. Water takes its own form, the form of whatever you put it in. Social isolation, loneliness, like water, is also very dynamic in nature and varies from a person to another. Because no one is immune to loneliness, you could be intellectually successful but lonely. You could be financially well off and have a different form of loneliness, where to a point where you are very successful, you've achieved great things in life, but you have no one to share it with. And so there are loads of men who are older in nature, who have amassed great financial resources, but no one to leave, no heir to leave their wealth to. And therefore, the state is full of, whatever state or location, region, province, of people who die alone, leaving houses, wealth, bank accounts, and the like. The probate system is no wonder why it's so bogged down. Anyways, as I was saying, we are part of, I'm part of a community, a cash flow generating community for the single person, the divorcee, the successful or not, to participate in a cash flow generating asset-backed tokenization system. And we're also part of a community where we do things together. We like to have fun together. And especially for the people who have kids, grandchildren, loved ones that you want to take care of them. And there will be a time where you stop yourself producing cash flow, and to satisfy the to balance the rising cost of inflation with incoming cash flow without productivity on your part, take part of a cash flow generating machine system, an ecosystem that allows you to have incoming cash flow. So whether you may have the ability, but also not have a necessity to participate, but there could be a cause that you generally support. Wouldn't it be nice to be part of an ecosystem that is a cash flow generating ecosystem, to meet needs, and you get also to meet people, so therefore you're not alone. And should you stop producing today, your income would not stop simply because you're part of a cash flow generating ecosystem that is technology driven, because we are in the midst of an economic shift. There is going to be, or there is currently is, a wealth transfer happening. Whenever we are in an economic downturn, wealth is not destroyed, it is simply transferred from those who do not have to those who have. Inflation is basically a wealth transfer to those who have incoming cash flow or retaining incoming cash flow, and to those collecting through services, homes, mortgage payments, debt payments, and higher cost of living, insurance, businesses who benefit. And so a socially isolated person, in a sense, is a liability. Well, obviously your isolation, your social isolation, your loneliness, in a way, due to lack of connectivity, due to lack of tribe engagement, your loneliness, your social isolation is an asset to the powers that be that benefit from your social isolation. In the case that if you happen to be an employee, a socially isolated, a lonely person who is not connected to a community, a tribe, you are a liability to a company, because you are likely to be a non-productive opportunity, because too much mental energy is wasted on your self-consumed behavior. And a good employee is an employee that is very well connected. Great productivity can be driven from an employee that is well connected, an employee that is part of a faith-based social tribe, school, flocks, house of worship, and you're connected because you draw resources, you draw energy, you draw strength from your social community, and therefore when you come to work, you do not have wasted mental energy on non-essential subjective uh, subjective lack of productivity, because you draw strength from your community. You come to work socially engaged and socially productive, and therefore can produce a better product if you happen to be working with your hands, or you provide a better service if you happen to be in a service oriented. You are a better teacher, a better parent, a better fellow brother, sister, uh, uncle, niece, father, grandparents, because of because your because of your connectivity. You draw strength from your connection, from your tribe, from your network, and makes you a very whole person. And the lack of energy is not wasted, and you're not trapped into your own head, and therefore consume more, spend more, and wasteful spending more, because you're not isolated and therefore not lonely. So this topic is a topic that embodied me, and that is impacting a lot of people. And I do hope that you get. By the way, I don't get anything from that. Two professors from Harvard who actually works in the same school were in close proximity to another, but did not know each other. They were brought together by a colleague, and only to find out that they were both working on the same topic, and they combined their research to create this book, Connected: How We Are Connected and we are influenced by other people more so than we think, even people you don't know. So in the case of someone who is not connected, well, obviously you suffer from lack of being part of a tribe, and because you're not connected, you are, in a sense, psychologically, intellectually, socially disadvantaged, and therefore a lonely individual, a very dangerous place to be. And chances are, the economy is actually benefited from your lack of connectivity, simply because you consume more than you think. You waste money on things you don't need. You involve in wasteful spending, to a point where you could have subscriptions to things that you don't need. I know one person who has a shoe subscription, coming in on a regular basis, having shoes, tennis and dress shoes, casual shoes, just for the habit of receiving something, and more shoes than she will ever have a need for, and who, by the way, contributed to a donation drive that I was doing. Some 182 pairs of shoes, some of them never even put on, and on a weekly basis, monthly basis, she probably has multiple incoming pairs of shoes coming in on subscription, because she is not connected. This wasteful behavior is a way of coping with isolation and loneliness. So, economically, an isolated person, your isolation is an asset to companies who tends to benefit, credit card companies who are collecting millions of dollars in interest from people who are trying to avoid isolation and loneliness by wasteful spending. So the economic cost of loneliness cannot be understated. Well, obviously, from a faith-based perspective, you have the decline of church attendance. Anyway, in January 2023, Christianity Today did a poll on the decline of church attendance. So between the ages of 30 and less and less young adults singles and liberals are attending church less and less. And as a result of lack of church attendance, not necessarily connected, so more people are leaving the assembly together as a faith group, um, which also increases the further isolation, because 1 in 5 people are more likely to live alone, and one in 5 people are identified as non-partnered or perhaps self-partnered, and 1 in 5 uh, people, young or adult, uh, married or not, or never married. Um, so this is not just a region specific, it's not just a country specific, it's worldwide. So since the proportion of society are not reproducing, and therefore we're having more and more um, single household, uh, single income, single household. So has age increase, health problem increase. So between the mental health profession will be eventually overcrowded. We are at the point where at 8 billion people and counting. Between the number of newborn and more people dying, and health problems, and social isolation, the economic cost will eventually exacerbate, and therefore makes it difficult. If church attendance is declining and 1 in 5 single household people are lonely and socially isolated, this is not just an epidemic. What's the next higher grade to an epidemic? You determine. Anyway, so wow, the solution is obviously, as a Renaissance man, no TV, lots of books, lots of friends. Actually, today I'm going to symphony with a good friend. We find out that we both love symphony, but the problem is neither of us have friends who like those things. So it's funny because I've known her for quite some time, um, and we're connected because I went to symphony. I saw her there, and the next day, likely for us, I saw her. I said, "Wait a minute! I saw you at Handel and Haydn last night. It was a beautiful symphony, beautiful orchestra." And then her face lit up in excitement. Why? Because I'm black. She probably didn't anticipate me liking classical music, which is obviously uh, uh, a general misnomer. And now we've been so far to multiple symphonies and one musical, and today is Symphony Day. We're gonna meet 2 hours early, connected, got a bite to eat, go for a walk, and with no social media, no phone, just pure human connection, and having 2 hours of blissful, heavenly music to nourish our soul. So I do hope that you participate in any such activity. And below this video, there would be a document that I put together with a picture of me and several videos that addresses the issue and some solutions. And if you're a faith-based, even if you like to entertain the possible positive side of dealing with this issue, I do have a biblically based, evidence-backed, biblically infused scriptures to help remedy such unavoidable, ever-growing psychological doomsday scenario. Until next time.